2011, 7 p.m. We're meeting in the County Council chambers. Would the clerk please call the roll of the council members?
Barbara Brenner.
Here.
Sam Crawford.
Here.
Kathy Kirschner.
Here.
Bill Knutson.
Here.
Tony Larson.
Here.
Ken Mann.
Here.
Carl Weimer.
Here. And would you all please stand and join me in saluting the American flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm pulling out my cell phone right here. I am turning it off, and we request that you either silence or turn off your cell phones. We don't allow any talking or ringing cell phones in the council chambers. And we always like to let you know that if you have brought any paperwork that you'd like to give to the council, please make sure on any issue tonight, make sure that the clerk gets a copy. That way we can be sure to get it in the record. We had a couple meetings of the Council Committee of the Whole, one meeting of the Council Committee of the Whole in which we had discussion with Public Works Administration regarding potential litigation and a discussion with our Senior Deputy Prosecutor Karen Frakes regarding potential litigation. There is no action tonight being taken directly as a result of that. We have some minutes approval. We have the regular County Council minutes for July 12, 2011 and July 26, 2011, and the Special Committee of the Whole for August 9th, 2011. There was another regular County Council for August 9th that got pulled. There must be some changes. So we just have those first three. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Councilmember Knutson moves to approve those three sets of minutes. Any questions, comments, deletions, additions? Seeing none, all in favor of approval of those minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 7-0. Okay, we're going to just dive right into our open session, and those of you who would like to speak can line up here. However, this is not the time to speak about the ferry, let me tell you that right off the bat, or the 6-year transportation improvement program. If you those are our two hearings tonight, the Intergovernmental Framework Agreement, Uplands Lease Agreement, and Tidelands Lease Agreement for the Lummi Island Ferry usage at Gooseberry Point, and the resolution approving the Whatcom County 6-year transportation improvement program for the years 2012 through 2017. If you want to talk on either of those subjects, don't come up now. But if you'd like to talk to us about anything else, you can line up at this sign. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to address the council. Before beginning to comment, please state your name and topic of interest for the record. If your last name is something other than Smith or Jones, please spell it so that we can get it right in the record. And the clerk will let you know when you have about 30 seconds left if you are going to try to use up all your 3 minutes. With that, sir, come on down, give us your name for the record, and let us know what you have to tell us.
My name is Larry Helm. I'm out on Squalicum Lake Road. I'm here tonight to talk to you about a public safety problem. I frequently go to Costco and buy gas, and what I'm noticing is more and more people, especially from Canada, are buying gas at Costco, filling up the small cans and putting them in their trunk. I feel that having people running around on our highways with 30 to 40 gallons of gas in their trunk in small cans is not a safe deal. You have to realize that when you buy a car, your gas tank is structurally designed to hold together during a rear-end collision. If your car is stuffed with small 6-gallon cans of gas in your rear end, they're going to rupture and you're going to have a fire. We just haven't had that accident occur yet. The other thing that's kind of bothering me is, as a farmer, I can't even find ammonium sulfate for fertilizer anymore, and I'm restricted on how much I can buy for ammonium phosphate. I mean, I used to buy tons of fertilizer. Now I buy it in bags of 100 pounds and keep making repeated trips. If we're serious about threats to our highways from potential bomb-making material, then we need to deal with the gas being bought in small cans at Costco. I'd like to see this county council direct the public works people in our county to write an ordinance setting a limit on how many gallons of gas you can carry in your car's trunk. And keep in mind that Costco, I'm told, sells more gas in Bellingham than any other Costco in the United States. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Helm.
Elizabeth Kilanowski, Kilanowski, Post Office Box 1134, Bellingham, Washington, 98227. And I want to just speak quickly to the National Conservation Area designation. I want to urge you guys to pass the resolution that Mr. Crawford wrote up, that the county support the National Conservation Area designation for the public of land management properties in Whatcom County. As I mentioned in the subcommittee meeting this morning that I attended, this should not be a controversial resolution. The NCA designation does not impact any private property in the county, but it does allow more local citizen participation in the management of these lands. So I urge you to pass it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Greg Brown, Whatcom County. I'm sorry, there's a few typos. I kind of rushed this tonight, but same issue, natural conservation areas on your agenda tonight. First off, I would like to state that I have a great desire to protect our properties and natural resources. I don't have any desire to needlessly designate properties already controlled and protected by our existing government agencies. Continued additions of designations that will allow additional regulations is primarily why we are in our battle with our government for the control of our land now. In particular, I would suggest that the environmental agencies and progressive philosophies are the leading advocates of increased government and forever ongoing regulations. The following is a listing of red flags that should make your senses awaken when you review the need to designate already protected land as government national conservation site. Some of these flags I picked up from an article from the islandsounder.com. This land is already under the control of the State Bureau of Land Management. There is no listing of what could happen to these lands to change their existing condition. Why designate them as a special property? There is no listing of the regulations that would be imposed on these properties and or their surrounding regulations that have been imposed on NCA with really no results. I actually penned a letter and talked to a gentleman in Washington, D.C. I actually really can't get hold of him, trying to get a listing of all the regulations that apply to all the national conservation sites, and they're giving me the runaround. The fourth one is the Wenatchee Field Office Manager oversees the land in the San Juan Islands, and she was tasked to assist with the NCA designation and coordinating between the agencies such as the county, the state, the tribes, and the various federal agencies. Now, what various means, I'm not sure. The fifth red flag is Representative Rick Larson's office has been driving the creation of this legislation, is working with the community to ensure broad support. The sixth one, the designation of National Conservation Area, which is more than just the Lummi Rocks and Carter Point, would be a congressional act mandating that the BLM conserve these lands. The Secretary of State of Interior, Ken Salinger, met with approximately 50 people in San Juan County, including representatives of natural conservation groups, 3 tribes, City of Anacortes facilities, and representatives of state and congressional offices. The only representative listed was Rick Larson.
30 seconds, please.
The Islander of Natural Conservation Area is a group that they put together to, anyway, I'll skip through some of these. I added a letter of reference to the Journey Through Hollowed Ground National Heritage Area, which is a similar type project, which deserves your reading to understand what could happen with what we have. So I won't read them all, but please consider the red flags as a warning that the NCA designation and any or all regulations that may be written from them provide for the environmental and conservation agencies to, although they'll protect the land, but also impact all the other resources we have in San Juan. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Hi, Johnny Grames, Bellingham, 98226. To start on a positive note, compared to the city, the county does really a good job with libraries and library hours, and I wanted to compliment you on that. It's really important, particularly for having an informed electorate. As I mentioned to the council last night, I don't know if it had any effect. This vote on that, our vote doesn't count as far as the red lights are concerned, that we're slave to these machines, and the judges' votes count, but people's votes don't count. And that's debilitating to the voters. You're really disenfranchising the voters. And there was a proposition earlier on that came out of this council about that we would just have advisory votes. Well, hey, it is still a constitutional democracy, and we do have direct democracy, and we have individual rights. And previous speakers have come here and said, oh, we're a nation of laws. No, primarily we're a nation of rights, and that's what all our soldiers went to war for. And that's critical that we understand that. And equality. Now, in my case, I mentioned to you before a couple of times that it sets precedents, not just for me, but sets precedents that a sheriff can go into your house and you show him the papers that you filed in court and go and he asks you, where's your gun? He goes and gets your gun and then walks you out of your house and takes everything that you own, okay? That actually happened, and it's all been covered up or I can't do anything about it.
30
Okay,
seconds, please.
that's what I mean by precedence, and thank you, Data.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in our open session? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the open session portion of our meeting. We will jump right into our public hearings, and this is what I have a feeling most of you came here for. The first hearing is on the Intergovernmental Framework Agreement, Uplands Lease Agreement, and Dana, you might probably want to check and see if there's a sign-up sheet. Uplands Lease Agreement and Tidelands Lease Agreement for Lummi Island Ferry usage at Gooseberry Point. Let me, before we get our sign-up sheets up here, just tell you that in our public hearings, audience members who wish to address the council during a public hearing are asked to sign up, but if you didn't get a chance to sign up, don't worry. You'll have an opportunity to speak after those who have signed up get their chance. We're going to form a line behind the sign just like we did before, and I'll probably call a few folks down at a time to be ready, and please be ready to just walk up as soon as the person in front of you finishes so that we can not be here till very, very late at night. Each speaker should state your name. For the record, you're going to get a maximum of 3 minutes to address the council. You do not get to delegate your time to other people. The council staff will keep track of the time limits and inform you when you have 30 seconds left to wrap up your comments. When a large group of individuals supports the same position on an issue, we encourage the selection of 1 or 2 representatives to speak on behalf of the entire group. However, we do not allow delegation of time. We got 2 pages. Oh, 1, 2, 1. Okay, good. All right, so we'll take this in order, and I'm going to call about 6 or 7 of you at a time. If you'd get up behind the signs, Mr. Jewell knows the drill here, and you can come on up here, Mr. Jewell, but if the rest of you could line up behind the sign, Stuart Rich, Lisa Wochos, Mark Sexton, Fred Kinney, Diane Harper, and Dale Kinsley. If you could line up and be ready to speak as soon as the person in front of you. That's Bud Jewell, Stuart Rich, Lisa Wochos, Mark Sexton, Fred Kinney, Diane Harper, and Dale Kinsley. Mr. Jewell, if you'd go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm Bud Jewell. I live on Lummi Island. It's 3805 Centerview Road, 98262. I think we ought to approve the agreement. It's probably the best we're going to get. I don't like it. There's too many things in there that I don't like, but I think we have to pass it. I think it has to be done. There are a few things I'd like to ask questions about on some of the implementation agreements, particularly on safety. They're talking about putting a sidewalk down around the ferry dock and up and down the highway to the bottom of the hill beyond Gooseberry. It's not sidewalk, it's a pedestrian way. And my question is, I did a safety study on Acton to find out where the problems were and found them, and I've given this to the county. And What I'm concerned about is if they spend the whole money, $2 million plus $2 million, on a walkway like the last one that goes into Quina. That walkway has maybe 3 people a day. And I think there are many more low-cost safety issues that could be handled before spending all the money on one project. The other thing I'm concerned about is that in the implementation agreement, they give the priorities. First priority is casino to the dock. Second priority is elsewhere on the reservation. Third priority is county roads adjacent to the reservation. Projects in the third priority are to be given priority only by mutual agreement of the parties, which may be withheld without regard to the parties' reasons. The parties may mutually agree to pursue a project that wouldn't otherwise have priority. I'm concerned about Imhoff Road and a left turn lane to keep people from crashing and killing people. I think it's a very important thing, and it's got third priority. Maybe the county's got other priorities that are separate from that. I would hope so. But this agreement with the tribe may lock us into some things you weren't anticipating. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stuart Rich. If the lease is not approved, there is no restart button. The federal government is not going to rescue us, not Congress, the BIA, the Department of Interior, or the federal courts. We must all ask ourselves, does anyone have the heart for resuming negotiations? Who has the time, energy, and money for a political and legal challenge? No one. This is not a great deal, and everyone knows this. There are parts that make you and others uncomfortable, but the County Council empowered the negotiation team over 2 years ago, and this is the best deal that they could get under the trying circumstances they encountered. It's time to accept the deal that was struck and move on. What is the legacy that will be left behind by the county? Making the best of a bad situation, or spending 2 years on a failed lease deal and leaving behind an even more difficult problem to solve? The next speaker, Lisa Wokus, will speak to the pros and cons of the legal ferry challenge. Now, you've heard several people voice cogent reasons for standing pat on the county's legal rights and not signing the lease. Unfortunately, however well-intentioned or misinformed these folks are, in truth, they're practicing law without a license. Your attorneys, Dan Gibson and Dave McEachran, have conferred with some of the best legal minds in Washington State and the country. And to a lawyer, they all agree that despite the fact that the county does not have legal rights under the right-of-way and the old lease contract, the enormous cost of litigation, years of delays and appeals, and the uncertainty of a favorable court decision, all of this dictates that the county approve the lease. Who in the county is willing to take on legal challenges from not just the Lummies, but from several fronts, which will only dwindle precious county resources and deplete the budget of every county department for years to come? Who has the wherewithal to convince the federal government to investigate and solve the ferry problem? Will Congress do it? We are a blip on their radar. Our congressional representatives have spoken clearly. It is unacceptable to stop the ferry. Both sides need to find a solution. Their message was simple. It's a local problem. Get it done. What about the federal agencies? Certainly not the BIA or the Department of Interior. Their message has been painfully clear for years. These agencies are most responsible for helping to perpetuate this mess. Will the Department of Interior and BIA get involved, do their duty, and solve the problem? Will they take the risk? Better to stay out of it rather than to risk alienating competing constituents, especially with the influence of the casinos. Some might see the problem or the solution as just to walk away from Gooseberry and elimination and go to Fairhaven. Our third speaker, Mark Cross, will address the county to the fallacy of this idea. The simple truth is that there are no other options at this time. Like it or not, we need the lease to give us time to come up with a better ferry plan. Until that time, the lease is an insurance policy which protects the county's interests. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Wokus, And I reside on Lummi Island. I've lived there for 16 years, and I've raised my 3 children there for much of their childhood years. I'm also a founding member of the Protect Lummi Island community group. I would like to ask my fellow Lummi Island residents to stand up so you can see just who is here. I think it's most of the hall. Thank you. Now, obviously, we are a community of very different individuals, and people have different opinions in this highly contentious situation. But I would like to, as well as I can in 3 short minutes, address my personal opinion of the situation as an attorney. I am a government attorney, and I am sympathetic to the difficult position that you as government officials face. You often are called upon to make very unpopular decisions that will disappoint or upset some of your constituency. In my work, I provide advice to state governmental agencies, and I'm cautioning that I'm not speaking on behalf of my office nor any of those agencies, but as a concerned island resident and an informed attorney. I've taken it upon myself to educate myself about the legal issues because I feel so strongly that they are important to maintaining the diversity in our community. You have received, I know, numerous communications about the right-of-way, the consent decree, and the the prior lease, the 50-year lease that has been dishonored by the Lummies. I actually agree with much of what has been said, but I do not agree with the conclusion that it then becomes wise to reject this lease and force the legal approach and challenge it from a legal perspective. The reason I reach this different conclusion than many vocal and articulate islanders is because the current situation does not call for a legal solution, but for a political solution. We will all be grappling with the aftermath of what occurs in terms of our relations with the Lummi Nation. And I think that at this point, given the amount of water under the bridge, we need to simply get it done. It's been 2 long and very stressful years for island residents, and we want it over. We want to buy ourselves a 35-year time period in which to regroup and figure out the next plan.
30 seconds, please.
For whatever reason, the county did not assert its right-of-way rights in the 1960s when it entered into the first lease. I believe that was ignorance, and that was the reason for the TAC. But it was a mistake, and we all have to grapple with it. If you were to vote to not approve this lease, what will happen? I do not feel comfortable in projecting that the tribe will resume negotiations. You may be forced into legal action, and the costs, as you have heard, are overwhelming.
Thank you.
I urge you to approve it. Thank you.
My name is Mark Sexton. I also reside on Lummi Island. I'd like to thank the county executive, council members, and staff for the efforts put forward in bringing this lease to a vote. We understand what a difficult process this has been, and I salute your resolve in hanging in there and not abandoning the pursuit of an acceptable lease for the Gooseberry Point ferry terminal. This may not be a perfect agreement, but the flaws do not make the overall agreement deserving of being thrown away. It feels as though this whole process has been flawed, possibly because we didn't enthusiastically explore other scenarios when the Lummi began suggesting they wanted the dock moved. Most of us never heard that message and now feel desperate for another option. But the hard fact is that no other reasonable option has been put forward that could be implemented quickly enough to compete with continuing at Gooseberry Point. I would encourage the council to build on the success of the Ferry Task Force by forming a citizen advisory panel to look into other transportation options for Lummi Island while continuing operations from Gooseberry Point, so that we're not caught again without a viable plan for the future. This planning could be researched and done by citizens so that the county resources could be conserved, and the Ferry Task Force has shown us that this can work. We continue to hear that the Whatcom chief can just go to Fairhaven, perhaps supplemented by a passenger-only boat. I know the council has heard the many reasons that this is not a reasonable alternative, so I'll be brief. School children whose trip to class would have to start 2 to 3 hours before school